You've been told that hustle is the secret. That if you just push harder, sacrifice more, sleep less, you'll finally get ahead. But here's the truth. Hustle doesn't build leadership. Hustle breaks it. Because hustle culture wasn't built for women. It wasn't built for wholeness. It was built to extract, to exhaust, to prove. And if you keep leading by hustling, it will cost you more than your health. It will cost you your presence, your influence, and your impact. Let's start with the myth of hustle. Hustle makes 3 promises. Promise 1, more hours equals more respect. Promise 2, sacrifice equals success. Promise 3, busy equals important. But here's the truth behind each one. More hours don't make people respect you. They make people assume you'll always be available. Sacrifice doesn't create success. It creates resentment and depletion. Busy doesn't equal important. Busy equals distracted. Hustle doesn't prove your leadership. It hides it. Now let's look at the reality of hustle leadership. Hustle leadership follows a cycle. Overdrive, to breakdown, to withdrawal. First comes overdrive. You sprint. You carry it all. You pride yourself on surviving what others can't. Then comes breakdown. Your health, your relationships, your clarity begins to crack. You lose creativity, you lose patience, you lose yourself. Finally comes withdrawal. Not by choice, but by collapse. Your body quits. Your spirit quits. You step back because you can't keep going. And here's the tragedy. So many women repeat this cycle for decades because the culture applauds the overdrive and hides the breakdown. So why does hustle fail women in particular? Because it was designed in a system that ignored them. Hustle culture didn't just appear, it was engineered. It was born in industrial systems where people were treated like machines, where the measure of worth was output per hour. And when women entered those systems, they were expected to carry double, the professional load and the invisible personal load. Hustle culture never asked whether this was sustainable. It only asked whether it was productive. That's why women leaders feel the cost so deeply. Because you're navigating a framework that was never designed for your wholeness, only for your labor. Hustle rewards constant availability, but women already carry invisible labor at home. Hustle rewards linear output, but women's natural rhythms, physical, emotional, intuitive, don't run on a straight line. Hustle rewards proving, but proving drains presence. And without presence, leadership collapses. Hustle demands you abandon yourself to succeed. Alignment demands you return to yourself to lead. So what's the alternative? It's not laziness. It's not disengagement. It's not leaning out. It's sustainable leadership. Leadership that trades hustle for alignment. Here are 3 shifts that make the difference. Shift number 1. From output to impact. Hustle asks, how much can you do? Alignment asks, what difference does it make? Shift number 2. From busyness to presence. Hustle asks, how fast can you move? Alignment asks, how grounded can you be? Shift number 3. From sacrifice to wholeness. Hustle asks, what can you give up? Alignment asks, what can you integrate? These shifts don't weaken your leadership. They multiply it. And here's what rarely gets talked about. The cost of hustle doesn't stop with you. When leaders hustle, cultures inherit it. Meetings get rushed. Innovation gets stifled. Teams stop taking risks because they don't feel safe to fail. Burnout spreads like wildfire. Because if you're exhausted, your people learn exhaustion as the standard. And if you're aligned, your people learn alignment as the standard. That's why breaking the hustle pattern is not just self-care, it's culture care. Because no one is inspired by a leader who is barely holding on. But everyone is transformed by a leader who is fully alive. And here's the anchoring truth. You don't inspire people by burning out in front of them. You inspire them by showing what's possible when you lead whole. Your presence is more powerful than your exhaustion. So what does leadership beyond hustle actually look like? It looks like setting boundaries that model sustainability, not being available 24/7, and showing your team they don't have to be either. It looks like choosing depth over speed, slowing down in meetings to actually listen instead of rushing to the next agenda. It looks like integrating soul practices into your leadership, not announcing them, not performing them, but embodying them quietly. Centering yourself before big decisions. Grounding your nervous system before big conversations. Choosing alignment instead of adrenaline. That is presence. That is power. That is the opposite of hustle. And this is where spirituality quietly changes the game. Because hustle operates from fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of falling behind. But presence operates from trust. Trust that alignment creates impact. Trust that clarity builds influence. Trust that wholeness inspires more than sacrifice ever could. When you root your leadership in spiritual alignment, you stop leading from scarcity and start leading from sufficiency. That shift is what makes leadership magnetic. Not louder, but clearer. Not faster, but deeper. So let me ask you this. What do you want your leadership to leave behind? A trail of exhaustion, where people remember how hard you worked, but not how deeply you led? Or a legacy of presence, where people remember how safe, seen, and inspired they felt around you? Because hustle can get you titles, but presence builds legacies. Hustle leaves exhaustion. Presence leaves legacy. So the next time hustle whispers, just push harder. Remember this. Hustle might build your resume, but only alignment builds your leadership. If this resonates, subscribe, Share this with a woman in leadership who's ready to step beyond hustle and into presence. And come back every Wednesday as we continue building the model of the aligned executive. The world doesn't need more leaders under pressure. It needs more leaders with presence.